Hi, my name is Brooke Felt, and welcome to our Solidarity Snack Time series. Today we will be talking about cognitive distortions. So what are cognitive distortions and why do they matter? Cognitive distortions are ways that our thoughts can become biased, and they can also be called unhelpful thinking styles. So cognitive distortions are part of our automatic thought processes and can lead to problems impacting our thoughts and moods. Dr. Aaron Beck first came up with the theory around cognitive distortions in 1976. And in the 80s, Dr. David Burns, who was a student of Dr. Beck, popularized these cognitive distortions with more common names. So, like we said, cognitive distortions can also be referred to as unhelpful thinking styles, and they include all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, mental filter, disqualifying the positive, jumping to conclusions, magnification or minimization, emotional reasoning, should statements, labeling and mislabeling, and then personalization and blame. And now we're going to look at what each cognitive distortion is. All or nothing thinking can also be described as polarized thinking, and it is very much a black and white thought style with no middle ground. It is either one way or another. There are no real areas of gray, and everything is absolute, such as always or never. The main focus is seeing your own personal qualities in black or white categories, and an example of this would be, I always mess up at work, so I am a failure. All or nothing thinking can be a problem because it constantly demands you to be perfect. And if you don't reach a certain standard or degree, it can cause self-blame for not being good enough. Overgeneralization has some similarities to all or nothing thinking, but the main distinguishing factor is that overgeneralization occurs when a person takes what happens in one situation and applies it to all situations in the future that are similar. For example, if I have to give a presentation for work and I completely bomb it, I might think that any presentation in the future will go the exact same way. So overgeneralization can be problematic because it can feel like you're stuck in just a pattern of negative events. Mental filtering can be described as looking at things through only a negative filter or lens. So focusing on the negative aspects of a situation and letting all of the positive details filter out. And you can think of it as putting on a pair of sunglasses, but the lenses only highlight or focus on the negative details, so you can't see the positives. Mental filtering can be a problem because it can keep you from being able to see the positive details over time and lead you to see everything with a negative conclusion. Disqualifying the positive may seem similar to mental filtering, but instead of filtering out the positives are dismissed. So David Burns gives an example of someone trying to give a compliment and then the other person receiving a compliment, but then saying, oh, that doesn't count. They were just being nice. He describes disqualifying the positive as really dismissing the positives completely or arguing against them. Jumping to conclusions is essentially knowing how a person is going to respond or react without the other person's input, and can either be done by mind reading or fortune telling. Mind reading would be when you think you already know what a person is thinking or feeling without asking them. For example, if I have a conversation with my friend and she doesn't talk to me for a few days, I assume she is mad at something I said, but I don't ask her. I am assuming how she was feeling without truly knowing. And then fortune telling would be when you think you know how a situation will play out, so you don't do anything about it. It is not acting because you assume you know what will happen, essentially acting without having evidence. Magnification and minimization can also be referred to as catastrophizing. Magnification is when a person might magnify small details that seem more insignificant and focus on those. Minimization is when a person might minimize details that are actually really significant. Essentially, Burns describes it as when fears, imperfections, and errors are magnified, and then strengths and achievements are minimized. Emotional reasoning occurs when you are experiencing a specific feeling and assume that because you are feeling a certain way, that feeling has to be true. An example of this would be something like, I'm feeling unloved, so therefore nobody loves me. Burns mentions that our feelings are born out of our thoughts and beliefs and can often be swayed by biased thoughts that are not necessarily true. Should statements occur when you believe things should be done a certain way or you should do things a certain way? It can be directed inwardly or in a response to other people. Burns argues that instead of motivating us, should statements actually lead us to become more unmotivated and lead to feelings such as shame, guilt, and frustration. For example, you might say, I should really go work out, but if you don't, it might leave you feeling really guilty or shameful. Labeling and mislabeling occurs when we label ourselves or others as one thing, such as, I am stupid, I am lazy, or I am crazy. Burns calls this an extreme form of overgeneralization. Labeling and mislabeling can be problematic because we cannot define ourselves or others with just one label. Personalization and blame. So, personalization is essentially when a person takes everything personally, even when that is not the case. Blame can occur when a person places blame on everyone else for their emotional discomfort or pain, or it can occur when a person blames themselves for everything. Burns describes personalization as when you assume responsibility for something when there's no evidence or basis for it. Personalization and blame can both lead to extreme feelings of guilt and shame. Overall, to change unhelpful thinking styles, we have to practice thinking about things differently and challenge the distortions when they occur. This is a process that will take time and mental energy, but it allows us to acknowledge our thoughts and practice mindfulness in how we respond to ourselves and others. The first step to addressing cognitive distortions is being able to identify and name them. Take time to reflect on which unhelpful thinking styles you resonate most with. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope you have a great day.